All right, here we go. Here is your last note set for the unit. Not sure why I'm singing it, but it makes me so happy that we're done with this. You won't have notes for a little while, so I know that will make you happy as well. All right, so let's get to this bad boy, this PowerPoint. This is, in short, it's one of the reasons why I had to do your guided reading yesterday like it was is that you would know a little more about what was going on in the American Revolution because these state standards stink now and they do not have us go over all of these great heroes of the American Revolution. So most people only really know George Washington. They don't know Thomas Paine. They don't know Nathan Hale. Uh, you know, so it's a struggle that for people to know some of these great names. If you did, oh shoot, I was just thinking of the name of the privateer John Paul Jones, who's got a statue in Washington D.C. that I always enjoy going and seeing every year. So, anyways, so let's talk about this war. I'm actually going to share this little YouTube clip down below. So click on it. It's actually one of my favorite Super Bowl commercials of all time. I think it was pretty awesome. I love what it represented. You like George Washington in a Dodge Challenger? Yeah. It's actually a really good one. So take the time and enjoy that one if you haven't seen it yet. But anyways, I'll share that link down below. So what's going on in this American Revolution? So things are going pretty well for the most part. And this is where I would also show the Patriot to you. So now you're like, man, we do a lot of set of notes. If we were actually in the classroom, we would balance that with clips of the Patriot, and I would tell you exactly, or show you exactly what we're talking about in class. So things are going okay for the most part for the colonists. But then they have some struggles because winter hits. When some of these guys either go home or they're tired of the cold, or they're working on their farms during the spring and summer and they have to leave. So Thomas Paine, excuse me, who we mentioned before with Common Sense, remember that he wrote Common Sense because he was trying to convince people that we could survive on our own without the British. Well, now he's trying to rally the troops and keep them interested in fighting in the American Revolution. So he writes something called the crisis. Now, the word crisis means that there's some kind of strain or something big that's going on in your life that you have to resolve in some fashion. So in this case, for the colonists, it's the idea that not everybody's getting support, whether it's at home or while they're out fighting. And some people are bailing out early. They don't think that we're going to win. So Thomas Paine says, okay, I'm going to write another one of these little pamphlet things, kind of like Common Sense. And in this, and I'll read it from the book here. It says, Thomas Paine had retreated with the army through New Jersey, so he was fighting with the troops. To raise morale, he wrote another pamphlet called The Crisis. Paine urged Americans to support the army despite hard times. He wrote, these are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of his country. But he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. And this Washington had the crisis read aloud to his troops. At the same time, he made plans for a bold attack, and that's where he crossed the Delaware. So basically, it's like a halftime speech. It's the coach telling you, hey, here's what we need to do to win. We need to keep morale up. We need to hold strong, kind of like this monkey's holding strong here. I'm not sure why there's a monkey on a moped, but whatever. I'm not judging the guy. But the monkey's holding on for dear life, so he doesn't end up as roadkill, I suppose, as monkeys do. But anyways, so Paine is saying, hold strong. Take comfort in the fact that we're trying hard. Let's keep at it. We can win this. The meme, internet meme of they had us at halftime. Okay, so now they end up turning things around. And that's where the crossing of the Delaware comes in because it's a huge victory for Washington. It surprised the Hessians in near Washington. Yeah, so anyways, this is going to be big. So this crisis really rallies the troops. That's the end. So what happens for the war is we go back and forth, back and forth. Things go well. Part of the reason why I had you read this section yesterday, and I got it in front of me, is that we needed help. We needed help of the French. We need help of Marquis de Lafayette, who's going to be important for the building of Washington, D.C., and Friedrich Baron von Steuben. Baron Friedrich von Steuben, that's the right way. So we have help from abroad because we get money, we get ships, we get training by Steuben as well as Lafayette. And so the old phrase of the enemy of my enemy is my friend really came to play here because the French came to help us out with not just troops, but training, but also because we were able to have them bring ships in to help us out as well. So Washington himself, he's obviously a hero of the American Revolution because he's our general. He's not president yet. He's going to retire here. Spoiler alert. But he helps us survive the winter at Valley Forge, which is really rough. Men boiling their shoes for soup. Also attacking the Hessians as they crossed the Delaware. Very famous painting with that one. So clearly we had some struggles, but we're able to win this war with the help of, again, people from abroad. There's a section in the book where it talks about women helping out and taking care of the farms and businesses while their husbands were away fighting. Native Americans on both sides, George Rogers Clark on the frontier, and as I said before, John Paul Jones fighting on the seas. Also the story of Francis Marion, very cool guy. Francis Marion, called the Swamp Fox because he fought in the swamps of the Carolinas. But we ended up having some success. We win the seas. We turn back Cornwallis at Yorktown, and we end up winning, in short. So we have a lot of heroes from this. And hopefully from your guided reading, you guys have some of these people that you're talking about. So where we are at this point is we were lost at one point, and this is where we need the words of Thomas Paine. We need the story of Nathan Hale. I regret that I only have one life to give for this country as he's being executed for treason. Where we've been, well, all over the place. Where we're going, nowhere fast. So we end up winning the war. We end up defeating the British, which is quite the shock, but we have hopes. We have help from the Spaniards in terms of money, from the French, and from other groups. So at the end of any good war, and the big thing from this is, even though it's a great war to talk about, it's pretty fascinating. The big result is that Treaty of Paris of 1783. So here is where I'm going to ask you to test about the irony of the two treaties of Paris, 1763 and 1783. 1763 gave Britain control of what would be the Americas, what would be America, basically to the Mississippi. The irony is Treaty of Paris of 1783, 20 years later, they give it to the colonists. So one Treaty of Paris gains them that land, one treaty loses them all that land. So the Treaty of Paris, move my little picture out of the way. It says here, I don't think this stuff is on the, yeah, there we go. Notes that it's just a little, did you know, signed on September 3rd, 1783. So let's get to this. So the main parts of Treaty of Paris is that the U.S. is independent, which means we are free from anybody else. We are literally our own country. Second thing is we have to pay some of our war spoils to somebody else. So we have to pay Spain back for all the money that they gave us in support. And so we give them Florida. We give them La Florida, which, if you remember, the Spaniards actually settled in the first place. So if you look at this map down below here, it has the lime green is the United States at that time period. That's what we will gain. The red up top is British Canada, so we're not worried about Canada right now. The blue is the Louisiana Purchase. Hint, hint, 20 years it's going to be ours. And then the Spanish territories we're clearly going to have to deal with at some point. Either we're going to have to buy them or we're going to have to take them by force, which both kind of happens. So we set our boundaries for the United States. So our new boundaries will be this. This is the United States at the current point. Is we get all this land here minus Florida and anything west of the Mississippi. So if I ask on a test, you're going to say we north to Canada, south to Florida, east to the Atlantic, and west to the Mississippi River. So that's all this stuff right here. So we go north to Canada, south to Florida, east to the Atlantic, west to the Mississippi. So that's all of our land there, including all that. So then the question becomes, well, what do we do with that land? Well, expansion is clearly going to come pretty quickly because in 20 short years, Ohio is going to be declared a state. So we also have to worry about I like this picture. Have to worry about the loyalists. So those loyalists, remember, those guys were the ones who who stayed with Britain. So the question is, what do we do with them? So we told Britain that we would give them their rights and properties, but we mostly ignored it. The reason why is, does it make sense that you want your enemies nearby you? Do you want someone who is true to somebody else in your country? Well, 1812, we're going to have round two with Britain. And so the problem is do you want to keep those people around? And then maybe they could end up being a reason to have the war or help them out in the war or be spies. And so we're going to tell Britain, yeah, we'll give them the rights. We'll let them be free. But in reality, we're like, no, get out of here because we don't want to keep those kinds of people around. We also, that came, so I think it ran out of air. We also bid adieu to George Washington. We say, see you later. He retires. We say, see you later, alligator or gladiator. December 4th, great day. Many a great person were born on that day. Not 1787, 1783, though. Good guess. But December 4th, 1783, George Washington retires to his plantation. Why is this a big deal? Well, he's done. He did his civic duty very much like Cincinnatus did. We called him off of his plantation. He came and fought. He led us, and now he's saying, all right, I'm done. I'm going back to my plantation. Now, he's not done yet because, obviously, he's going to return a few short years, and he's going to be our president of our United States, our very first one. At least, yeah, technically, the very first one. So the impact of this is pretty important. Clearly, the importance of it is, well, that we became a country, and we'll get to that in a second. But the war lasted 8 years. 8 years is a long time period to have people fighting on your own land, to fight in the seas, to give resources to lose lives, whatever. So it's a long period of time. But it's important because we end up being or creating a country, a new country, the creation of 13 independent but linked states. Now, keep in mind, again, they're still their own colony, their own state soon enough. And now we're linked. Now, we'll be called the United States, but actually getting us to the point of where we act as a real country, that takes a little bit of time. So we'll have some problems that we have from this point forward. But you can see from here in the blue, these are the states that are going to be your earliest that are going to come in. We also have that Declaration of Independence, which we already made. The idea of equality and liberty. Viva liberty. Or freedoms, that we have this thing created now, that we declared ourselves free, and we listed these grievances and things that we wanted to have. We also inspire people. We're so inspirational that the French helped us out, and they go, now wait a second. If these ragtag colonists can do something like this, why can't we have our own revolution? So they actually do. So the French Revolution comes right after this. You Les Mis fans, that would be about this time period, is that they were inspired by the French Revolution and wanted democracy and freedom. Same thing. So you see in this picture here, let me get my big head out of the way. If you look at that picture, what do you see? Yeah, they've got somebody's head right there. So that was a time period when your monarchs of France and other leaders kind of lost their head because the people had their own revolution and got rid of those people and said, we want not a monarchy, we want a democracy. Other results, these things are not in your notes, you don't have to write them down. But it's important because here's how much debt we had. We had $70 million worth of debt that we owed to people. And we had to figure out a way to get that money back. So not just from our own citizens, but also from, it says like there, from France and the Netherlands. And then we look at casualties, again, not in your notes, but no one really knows how many people we lost in the American Revolution. We can make a guess. Now, when it comes time to Civil War, we'll have a definitive answer, or at least a better number. But this one, no one's really taken account or record of how many people died. Again, we have an idea, but we don't know if it's close. But the big problem is a lot of people actually died more from disease than from actual injuries. For example, if you got shot by a bullet, give me a second. Okay, got it. All right, so if you can see this little ball, there we go. That's the type of bullet that you had, not like the standard bullet that you're kind of looking at here. I have problems with this camera here, so I'll shoot on it. But this ball, it's called a Minié ball, and it's a rounded ball. This one is a .69 caliber round shot. So this round shot, when it would hit you, okay, it wouldn't necessarily, penetrate really far or go through and through, which means it's all the way through. But instead would like hit it and then it would like shatter the bone or whatever that you're hitting. So here's the problem: is you may not have an injury like I get hit in the shoulder that's life threatening, but you have to figure out a way to fix that. And because that bullet would come in, it would fragment, and also would fragment your bone. A lot of times, the easiest thing to do, because medicine wasn't great at the time period, is just take it off at the nearest joint. So you would have people who might have gotten shot in the forearm and lose it at the elbow. And so, I mean, obviously, that's going to not be great for people, but also people get gangrene because you didn't know what you needed to do to make medicine sterilized or to make your instruments sterilized, and really didn't have much by way of medicine at the time period. So you would get these blood diseases, which basically would kill you, especially gangrene if you let it go and don't take care of it. Still does that in modern times too. And smallpox, it says there, and even scurvy. Remember we talked about scurvy at the beginning of the year, especially for sailors who didn't have a great diet. So, you know, a lot of these people ended up dying, not necessarily on the battlefield, you had a lot there, but, you know, afterwards, because hospitals and medicine weren't great. So here's the numbers that they have. It says an estimated number of 25,000 American revolutionaries died. It says 8,000 in battle, 17,000 others were from disease or as prisoners of war. And then you have the number, which is a casualty. Casualty is dead and wounded. So the high number is 50,000. So in terms of battles, is that a lot? Not really, because, or like wars, because you go into the millions for World War II. But also, when you look at old battles like Sparta and Rome had, you had 50,000 people die on one side in a battle. So that actually happened quite a bit too back then. And as I said, scurvy was a big killer, and that was because your vitamin C was lacking in your diet. So there you go. So what is to come? The last thing here. So that's a question on your guided reading yesterday, is what happens afterwards? What are like 3 things that we have to work on once we become a country? I mean, it's like, congratulations, you won, you beat England. But now what? What are you going to do with this? So things that we have to consider. Number one, the U.S. is in deep debt. We have to figure out where we're going to, slate cracks me up every year. We got to figure out where we're going to get our money from and who we're going to give it to. We have to figure out how we're going to run a democracy. We have no idea what it, I mean, it's great, we're on our own, we're independent, but what exactly is a democracy? So I feel like this lady here is like, I don't know what democracy is quite yet. So we have to do some research on that. Who is going to lead us? Who, Dr. Who, and Horton here too. We got to figure out who is going to lead us. I mean, we can have a democracy, but do we have a person in charge? Do we have a specific individual who's going to do that? So we have to figure that out soon enough. And we have to figure out reforms. We have to change society. So not just for African Americans, but Native Americans and women as well. It's that we have to take care of these people now, or figure out what we're going to do with them, what kind of rights we're going to give to them, especially because women helped us out in the American Revolution. Are we going to increase any rights for them at all? And then what happens with slavery and Native Americans? So this is a lot for us to figure out, socially, economically, politically, that we need to start looking at things to improve our country. So we will do that in the next units to come. So yeah, there's a few little things on Ben Franklin if you want to know about it, but I'm sure you probably don't. I like his quick quote here: "To lengthen life, lessen thy meals." Easier said than done, man. Hey, he also had the first mullet, so there you go. Did I have that in here? No, I thought I had the mullet one. Yeah, that's it. Okay, anyways, see you tomorrow. Actually, yeah, see you tomorrow. Vocab review. Have a good day. Be good.